We're going to look at mansions in Manhattan. There are some mansions in the other boroughs, but not many. The dictionary definition of a mansion is a large, impressive house. The real estate definition is a house that has at least 5,000 square feet and 5 to 6 bedrooms. Mansions typically sit on small acreage, while large amounts of land are called estates. The earliest mansions date from the 18th century. As the city grew, the wealthy moved north, first to Fifth Avenue between 50 and 58th Street, and then in the Gilded Age of the 1880s to World War I, to between 70th and 95th Streets on Fifth Avenue. Also, many mansions were constructed on Riverside Drive on the west side. Eventually, many of the descendants of the original owners were able to realize enormous profits by selling the mansions to real estate developers who constructed apartment buildings on the sites. So not too many mansions remain today. Well, here we're looking at the northern end of Manhattan Island, and we're going to visit the Morris Drumell Mansion here, the James Bailey House over here, and the Alexander Hamilton House here. Further south on Manhattan's west side, we'll visit the Shanassi Mansion at 107th Street and Riverside Drive. Here you can see the Riverside Park and the Hudson River over here. On the east side, we'll go to Gracie Mansion along the East River, and then various mansions along Fifth Avenue, all the way down into Midtown. Here's the James B. Duke House at 1 East 78th Street. It's in a French classical Louis XIV style, built in 1912. James B. Duke was the founder of the American Tobacco Company. He's best known for modern cigarette manufacturing, and also as an electric power industrialist and his involvement with Duke University. Duke died in 1925. The family lived here until 1958, when it was donated to the New York University Institute of Fine Arts. Here we are at the corner of Fifth Avenue and 94th Street at the Willard D. Straight House. As you can see, the entrance to the house is on 94th Street. It's in a Georgian Revival style, built in 1915. Straight was an investment banker and diplomat. He died during the influenza epidemic of 1918. The house eventually went to the Audubon Society as their headquarters. It is now a private residence. At 1109 Fifth Avenue is the Felix Warburg House. It's another mansion where the main entrance is not on Fifth Avenue, but here on 92nd Street. Now the house is in a French Chateauesque style with a Gothic facade. The exterior is of Indiana limestone. It's 82,000 square feet. In 1895, banker Felix Warburg emigrated to the United States. The house was completed in 1908. In 1944, his widow, Frida Warburg, donated the mansion to the Jewish Theological Seminary. It opened as the Jewish Museum in 1947. Well, just down the block from the Felix Warburg House is what was formerly the Andrew Carnegie Mansion. It's at 2 East 91st Street, at the corner of Fifth Avenue. The mansion is in a Georgian Revival style. It has 64 rooms. Industrialist and philanthropist Andrew Carnegie, purchased land here in 1898, and the mansion was completed in 1902. It was a family residence until 1946. The Columbia University School of Social Work occupied the building from 1949 to 1971. Carnegie Corporation gave the house to the Smithsonian in 1972. The Smithsonian opened the Cooper Hewitt Museum, a design museum devoted to historical and contemporary design, here in 1976. Well, this is the Pierpont Morgan Library Annex. It's at the corner of Madison Avenue and 37th Street. Well, the house dates from 1853, and it was originally called the Anson Phelps Stokes House. And it became, in the early 1900s, the J.P. Morgan Jr. House. Across the street from the J.P. Morgan Library Annex is the Consulate General of Poland. Originally built in 1902 for Joseph Raphael de la Mare, who was a miner and metallurgist. That's where he made his fortune. He died in 1918, and the house was sold to the American Bible Society and then to the National Democratic Club. In 1973, it was bought by the Republic of Poland. It's a very large house in the Beaux-Arts style. Well, here we see at 23 Park Avenue at 35th Street, what was originally the James Hamden Robb and Camellia Van Rensselaer house, built in 1892. It's an Italian Renaissance house by Stanford White. And Robb was a banker and politician. The house was bought by the Advertising Club as its New York clubhouse. It was converted into co-op apartments in the 1970s. We're on Park Avenue near 85th Street at 1025 Park Avenue, and this is the Reginald and Anna de Koven house. It's an English country estate. De Koven was a prominent composer of light opera. He wrote the popular song, "Oh Promise Me." His wife Anna was an author. The house was completed in 1912. De Koven died in 1920. In the 1940s, the mansion was divided into 12 apartments. At the corner of 91st Street and 5th Avenue, at 1 East 91st Street, is the Otto Kahn House. It's a huge house, 50,000 square feet, 66 to 80 rooms. It's built in 1918. It's an Italian Renaissance style. The facade is of French limestone. Financier Kahn bought the lot here in 1913. The house was sold to the Convent of the Sacred Heart in 1934, 1 month before he died. It was converted into classrooms. Notice the private driveway here. Quite unusual. Right next to the Otto Kahn house is the James A. Burden house at 7 East 91st Street, built in 1905 in an Italian Renaissance style. Burden was an iron manufacturing magnate. We're at the corner of 84th Street and 5th Avenue, just across the street from the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and we're looking at the Jonathan and Harriet Thorne house. Now 1028 5th Avenue. Originally it was 1026, 27, and 28 5th Avenue. Jonathan Thorne amassed a fortune in the leather trade. He died in 1920. Florence Vanderbilt Burdine, the great-granddaughter of Cornelius Vanderbilt, purchased the mansion but lived here only 5 years before selling it to the Order of the Sacred Heart of Mary. The mansion would become a select school for girls, Marymount School. By 1936, the student body had grown to the point where the adjoining mansion at 1027 was acquired, and in 1950, 1026. The three mansions' interiors were combined. In 1950, the school began accepting boys. Here at 2 East 79th Street is the Harry F. Sinclair House, built in 1899. It's in a French Renaissance style. It's a French Gothic chateau. 27 rooms, 6 floors, and 20,000 square feet. The original owner was Isaac D. Fletcher, who made his money in asphalt. He had a large art collection, and he donated it to the Metropolitan Museum of Art when he died in 1919. He bequeathed the house to the Met, but the Met sold the house to Harry Sinclair, an oil magnate. Eventually, it was sold to the Ukrainian Institute of America. Sinclair was quite a character. He was one of the principal financial backers of the Federal League of Baseball in the 1915-16 era. He served 6 months in prison in the Teapot Dome scandal. He bred horses. He won the Kentucky Derby and 3 Belmont Stakes. We're on 61st Street between York and First Avenue, and we're looking at the George Washington Hotel. It's one of the few remaining pre-1800 buildings in Manhattan. It was originally planned in 1795 as an estate for Colonel William Smith and his wife, Abigail, the daughter of John Adams, the second president. It was originally built as a carriage house and stable in 1799 and converted into a hotel in 1826. And it operated as a hotel until 1833, when it was sold and became a private residence. Standard Gas and Light Company bought the property in 1905 and built gas tanks nearby. In 1924, the Colonial Dames of America, a lineage society, bought the residence to serve as its headquarters. In 1939, it opened to the public as the Abigail Adams Smith Museum. Tours are conducted Tuesdays through Sundays from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. At 86th Street and 5th Avenue, we find what was once the William Starr Miller House. The mansion is in a Beaux-Arts style of limestone and brick with a mansard roof. It was completed in 1914 for real estate magnate William Starr Miller. He lived here until his death in 1935. His widow died in 1944. The house was then occupied by Grace Vanderbilt and then by the YIVO Institute for Jewish Research. It was purchased in 1994 by Ronald Lauder of Estee Lauder. It is now the Noy Gallery. Well, here at the corner of 150th Street and St. Nicholas Place, we see the Ruth M. Bailey and James Anthony Bailey House. Bailey was the partner of John Ringling of Barnum and Bailey circus fame. It's in a Romanesque revival style. It's rock-faced granite, stylishly Dutch-gabled and corner-towered. was completed in 1888. At 25 East 78th Street is the Stuyvesant and Marion Fish House. It's a Stanford White creation built in 1898 in an Italianate style. Fish was a railroad executive. Here is the Harkness House at 4 East 75th Street, in a Neo-French Renaissance design. It's from 1896. It was built for Nathaniel McCready, a stockbroker. In 1940, it was sold to Thomas Watson, the founder of IBM. And it was sold to Rebecca Harkness in 1964, and then became known as the Harkness House. The Harkness family had got their money from the founding of Standard Oil. At 867 Madison Avenue at 72nd Street is the Gertrude Rhinelander Waldo House from 1898 in a Beaux Arts style, modeled on a French chateau. Gertrude Rhinelander Waldo was an American heiress. According to most sources, she never lived in this house. Her father's ancestors lived in New York City since the 17th century. Her son was Rhinelander Waldo, the fire and police commissioner of ragtime fame. She died in 1914. The mansion was eventually subdivided into commercial and retail use. Today is the flagship store of Ralph Lauren. Well, here we see two mansions on 72nd Street, 7 and 9 72nd Street. Once separate, they're now connected. Well, here's the Oliver Gold Jennings house in a Beaux Arts style. And Jennings was an industrialist. Henry J. Sloan's father founded the carpet and furniture company W&J Sloan. And this house is 45,000 square feet and now includes the previous house we just looked at, which was connected in 2010 by the latest owner. Various owners included the Lycée Française of New York. At 1 East 70th Street is the Henry Clay Frick House from 1912. This mansion was built in 1912. Henry Clay Frick gained his wealth through the coke and steel industries. He co-founded with Andrew Carnegie, Carnegie Steel. He became an avid art collector. Frick died in 1919. After his wife died in 1931, the Frick collection opened in 1935. This is one of the great art collections of New York City. In the heart of Midtown, at 4 East 54th Street or 5th Avenue, is the William H. Moore House. It's a McKim Eden White creation. It's from 1898. Moore was an industrialist and financier involved in the creation of Nabisco and U.S. Steel. He died in 1923, and a widow lived here until 1955. Various occupants since then, including the government of Indonesia, Banco Popular, and now Kiton, an Italian fashion company, occupy the site. Well, here we see the Hamilton Grange National Monument, originally the Alexander Hamilton Country House. It was completed in 1802, and it was the home of Alexander Hamilton for the last 2 years of his life. And it's believed to be the only house that Alexander Hamilton ever owned. It's been moved several times, and it's at its present location at 141st Street near Convent Avenue. The house was once located at 143rd Street, then it was moved to somewhere on Convent Avenue, and then to its present location here at 141st Street, and that was done in 2008. It's a frame house in the federal style. The National Park Service runs it, and tours are given, and there are exhibits and some restored rooms. Here at 52nd Street and 5th Avenue, we see the Cartier building. It's from 1905 in a neo-Renaissance style. The building consists of two conjoined residences, the Morton F. Plant building here and the Edward Holbrook residence at 452 52nd Street here. Plant was a financier, and Holbrook was the president of Gorham Manufacturing Company, a sterling and silver plating company. The two buildings are internally joined since the 1920s. Cartier was founded in Paris in 1847, established in New York City branch in 1909. They moved to 5th Avenue in 1917, purchasing this building from the Plants. Subsequently, Cartier purchased the Holbrook House. Right next to Cartier at 647 5th Avenue is one of the two remaining buildings known as the Marble Twins. This one was the George W. Vanderbilt residence, built between 1902 and 1905 in a French Revival style. The building right next door, 645, was demolished in 1944. George Vanderbilt died in 1914, and this section of 5th Avenue was becoming commercial, and the building was leased to art dealers. Now it's home to a fashion store. Here are the Villard houses on Madison Avenue between 50th and 51st Street, built in 1882 in a Renaissance Revival style. This is a set of former residences erected for Henry Villard, a railroad magnate. The residences changed hands many times before being acquired by the Archdiocese of New York in the late 1940s. Eventually it was turned into the New York Palace Hotel in the 1970s. We're at 160th Street and Edgecombe Avenue, and through the trees we can just about see the Morris Jumel Mansion, which is located at one of the highest points in Manhattan. We're going to go in for a closer look. Well, here we see the Morris Jumel Mansion. It's reputedly the oldest house in Manhattan. It was built in 1765 by Roger Morris as a summer residence for his family. It served as George Washington's headquarters for 1 month in 1776, and it was occupied by the British until 1783. The Jumels bought the residence in 1810. Eliza Jumel, I think a daughter of Samuel Jumel, was briefly married to Aaron Burr in the 1830s. The house passed to New York City in 1903. When Stephen Jumel purchased the property in 1810, he partially renovated the house in the then modern federal style. So it's Tuscan columned with a facade of wood boards. We're on the west side now, over on Riverside Drive and 107th Street. And we're looking at the Morris and Lorette Shenassi house, completed in 1909. It's neo-French Renaissance style, built of Vermont marble. Well, Morris Shenassi made his fortune in the tobacco business. This chateau was designed by the same architect that designed Carnegie Hall. There were once dozens of mansions just like this one along Riverside Drive, but this may be the only remaining one today. Well, here's Gracie Mansion, the official residence of the mayor of the city. Originally, the Archibald Gracie House was located in what is now called Schurz Park at East End Avenue and 88th Street. It was built in 1808. It was a remote country house in its day. It was in private hands until 1896, when the city of New York made its grounds part of Carl Schurz Park. From 1924 to 1936, it was the museum of the city of New York, and in 1942 it became the mayoral residence.